Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sagar Nandrajog, your host for today's webinar. It gives me immense pleasure welcoming you all to the live webinar on the theme of Flash Storage Accelerates Your Business Without Compromise. This webinar is hosted by Cyber Media Research in association with IBM. For the duration of presentation, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode. After the presentation, we will be having a question and answer session. Your feedback is very important to us. Please submit your feedback at the end of this webinar. Now, I would like to hand over the floor to Mr. Anil Chopra, VP Research and Consulting, CMR, who will share his insights on planning your transition to the flash storage. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sagar, for that introduction, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on flash storage, which helps you accelerate your infrastructure, your business without compromise. So I am going to start off with very introduction of what's really happening and how do we really view flash storage market out there. Before I hand it over to our next speaker, IBM, who will actually go into the depths of some of the flash storage offerings that they have and how that actually helps in various applications. So, the first thing I think is that one clear trend that, we are seeing is that enterprise storage is no longer meant to just store the ever-increasing data. It's no longer meant just for plain basic file serving. We're in a digital age, where customer interactions are happening through multiple delivery channels, and the customers do expect faster response, while the company actually expects to apply analytics on all those transactions so that they can draw meaningful insights. So it's a completely different kind of, method of, using data and storing data that we're seeing now as a trend. And in order to make this happen, storage has to be able to deal with it. It has to be able to cope up with being able to provide, quick access to data, being able to process it quickly, and, help insights, so that you can draw your insights very quickly. So there's a lot of storage has to keep up, and that puts a lot of pressure on the storage managers in the organization to be able to make sure that the storage is responsive enough to all these requirements. So that's actually the real value of storage today. Because the standard spindle-based hard drives, they cannot just handle these kind of demanding workloads. And that's where really flash comes in. And in fact, if you look at it globally also, the flash storage purchases are actually increasing. According to various reports by various agencies, we're seeing that, in storage, I think flash storage is, having the maximum growth in terms of people actually, buying storage for their requirements. And that, as a result, is also helping reduce the cost per GB of flash storage. And that trend will actually continue. It will continue going down and making flash a more compelling proposition in the future. So obviously, that leads us to the very basic question about, so why do you really need flash? Why is it so hot, and why is it so so much in demand? So while of course we understand that some of the basic things of flash, it's not a new technology, SSDs and all, they consume lesser space, they consume lesser power, they generate lesser heat. So all that actually helps in the data centers in terms of reducing the power and cooling and space costs. They provide far better performance, right? And they can actually also operate at higher temperatures and, are more shock resistant. So even in industrial environments as well, they can actually be utilized. But another very critical thing, which is, what I initially said, that, today customers are coming in from various channels, and which is the whole, being able to transform your business and make sure that you can enable IT for this kind of transformation. Now, the difference is that in the past, you had production applications which would create data and store it. And that was perhaps the only time when you needed high-speed storage for all your data, because it had to be created quickly, it had to be stored and retrieved real quickly initially. But over a period of time, the value of this data actually decreased, which is why it was moved to slower storage and eventually to tape systems for data backup and archival. That is how the traditional setup used to work. But in today's digital enterprise and today's market scenario as well, customers are coming in from so many different places. They're coming from mobile, they're coming from social media, and then of course internally we are talking about IoT being used. So all of these are suddenly generating data. And the interesting thing is that the data value of this data actually increases over time. Whereas in the previous situation, it decreased over time. Here it increases over time because you want to be able to use that data to analyze it and be able to draw meaningful insights. And in case of, say, IoT data, you would want to perform real-time analytics. Now, unless and until you have fast enough storage, you cannot do that. You definitely need high-speed storage or flash storage, which can actually provide you that. So that's a very, very big difference and the trend that we're seeing in the market, and which is why flash storage actually becomes a critical element of an IT infrastructure in order to enable digital transformation of the enterprise. Now, of course, there are secondary benefits as well. Since you're going to reduce the space required, lesser number of drives required, probably there will be lesser applications also that will be required to be able to access that data, which actually reduces the number of application servers you need. It thereby reduces the licensing costs and the overall administrative overheads. So I think that's the key reason why flash, and of course the use cases likewise, as I said, are actually also going up. There are many use cases in the whole analytics space, of course. As you get a lot of unstructured data, a lot of data that is coming in, the whole big data space. So you be able to analyze that data. You want to be able to analyze it in real time, analyze and get results quickly, to understand consumer patterns, to understand customer requirements. You need high-speed storage to be able to deliver. Transactional workloads where customers are actually coming in maybe online or from various channels. When they actually do a transaction, they expect immediate response, which is where response time becomes important. So that's another aspect of having, flash storage. And likewise, if you have huge archives that need to be accessed more frequently, traditional storage or tape just will not work. So likewise, as I said, although these are just a few use cases I've said, but there are so many different use cases that can now come in for flash. There are so many different applications that can be created for flash. So therefore, that actually creates the need for flash memory. So therefore, I think when you're actually evaluating flash-based storage, then again, there are multiple things wherein, since all flash systems are not the same, it's important to understand what really works for you and what meets your requirements and current and likely future requirements. So do you need performance, do you need capacity, or do you need both? Do you need an all-flash array, or would a hybrid do? Where flash acts as a cache memory for data that needs to be accessed frequently, and infrequently accessed data is stored on the traditional hard drives. So you could actually, the other is that, the cost per GB and cost per IOPS are both important because, again, important considerations when actually going for a flash. Because, if an SSD costs more, but it also delivers very high IOPS, then its cost per IOPS might actually be lower than a traditional disk that costs lesser, but its IOPS are also comparatively lower. So there again, cost per GB and cost per IOPS are both important considerations when actually going for flash. And of course, performance definitely, while that is the key parameter for flash-based storage, that is not the only one. One should also look at the feature set, for when considering a flash-based storage. Like for example, data compression, so that you can pack more data in lesser space, and that actually optimizes your capacity usage. And likewise, look at other features that you can actually utilize as per your business requirement. So that was a small overview of flash storage and why it's important in the market, and why is the growing need for flash storage in the market. I think the number of options available have increased. and the number of applications for that have also increased. So it's important to now start evaluating what sort of flash storage will meet your requirements. And with that, I'll end my presentation because the next presentation is by Jaswinder Singh Saini, who's a storage solutions architect at IBM, and he's actually going to talk about the IBM's flash storage portfolio and the software-defined storage side of things. He will talk about all of that. But before we do that, we're going to run a short poll just to understand, some of your need from a flash-based storage. What is more important to you? So can I request Sagar to please display the poll question on the screen now?
Certainly, sir. I've opened the polls. All participants, the polling session will be live for the next 1 minute. Please make sure that you submit your responses. Thank you.
So the question here is, what would be the driving factor for infrastructure upgrade in your setup? Options are low latency, B, high ops, C, throughput, or D, all of the above.
Participants, we have 10 more seconds before the polling session ends. Thank you all. Yeah.
Can we please have the results on screen?
Certainly, sir.
Okay, so results have finally been shown on the screen. So I would request now hand it over to Jaswinder to take up the next session.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra, for setting up the platform for today's webinar. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the next speaker, Mr. Jaswinder Singh Saini, Storage Solution Architect, IBM Systems, ISA. And he will share his insights on next-gen flash and how it's better than enterprise disk systems. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Hi, everyone. This is Jaswinder Singh Saini. I'm part of the STG Lab Services team, India, South Asia. I'm a storage solution architect. Been working and handling most of the complex data center migrations, infrastructure upgrades, and consolidations for past 6-7+ years. And today's session, we're going to deal with IBM storage portfolio, the all flash arrays, different kinds of flash arrays, and how each one differs from other, and the IBM Spectrum Suite storage. So Spectrum Suite is a name that was given, or a category that was given in 2013, and we have different sections in each category, and we would like to showcase how each one has a different different customer base and different requirements, different features, and how it would help you to achieve your goals on your infrastructure. So we'll begin the session today by looking at the most common problem that we have, or the what we say as the most common confusing part of today's infrastructure, that is data. So just give me a minute. Yeah. So that is data. If you see page number 2, it shows data. So data, there's a lot of change in the way things are handled in the past, couple of years. Initially, more than 90% of your infrastructure was all, structured data or OLVMs and, the regular database and regular applications. But all of a sudden, there has been a shift from structured data to unstructured data. the platforms, the applications, the APIs, the open source infrastructure, and even analytics, which has now been, has become a very important part of your infrastructure. And going forward, you would see deep learning, machine learning, and as well as AI coming in the next year or two. As the shift continues from structured to unstructured data, data in general has become the biggest problem, because initially there was not so much of new inbound data that was generated every year. But now the percentage of increase has been tremendous. So what usually happens is that the system that you plan to keep in your infrastructure for, let's say, for 3 or 4 years, usually don't keep up with the pace as your data changes at a much faster pace than your infrastructure. So, the most common problem that we face now is that, there's a lot of data that has been changed. If you see the next slide, you will see that 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. And most of it is now unstructured data, which actually never existed in the first place. And then, the traditional systems, which were actually taking care of all the requirements, are today, less than 30%. It's probably 20% of what is actually being taken care of. The biggest problem for any technical leader for a company is to understand and, drill down to a level where he can reach out to the resources and to the reports and to the data that he actually needs. So a business leader, whoever wants an access to the exact reporting or detailed information that he needs, he's not able to get access because there's a constant change in the way things are happening, right? And analytics, like I said, analytics has become a very important part of your infrastructure today. Like a couple of years back, not every infrastructure had SAP or HANA or Sybase IQ or even Informatica, right? But now, as the trend is changing, you would see them becoming a part of each and every, the application becoming a part of each and every infrastructure going forward. So these all applications or these all requirements have specific needs, and they need specific hardware or this specific infrastructure to be run on, or else they would be, running way slower than you actually think, and they would be no good to give you the result that you actually, are expecting from them. So what would be the major shift that we see in the storage market? So we jotted down a couple of points based on a discussion with the market leaders. So this is what we come to. So cloud, yes, definitely cloud is one major shift, but it's not like that you can move everything to cloud, right? There are many do's and don'ts of pros and cons of cloud that you need to understand. There are many audits and there are many policies and there are many limitations depending upon each infrastructure. Similar way, the bigger change from the storage perspective that came into market was flash storage. Now, it's just been 4 years that flash storage has been introduced. And the biggest question even today we have is, do I change everything to flash or do I just change some bits to flash? So those questions are still in the mind of most of the technical leaders. And our first poll questions was something which was related to the same thing. What was the infrastructure driving factor? It is really low latency or high IOPS throughput or equally all the points. So we'll discuss this in the next slides to come. The next is software defined. Now, we all say that the vendors are offering software defined. What does actually software defined stands for? What all things can I achieve with software defined? And what are my challenges? Because it's going to be a difficult task to move from a traditional storage to a software-defined infrastructure. So all those things, are basically the problematic areas or the pain points of a business leader. And then, of course, the biggest question, the clients are challenged to how to navigate into the future, how to transform from a traditional workload or traditional infrastructure to the next layer. So all those things we're going to, view, and how will IBM storage portfolio help you achieve that. So this is the next slide shows you a traditional application workload where you have, your regular disk and a traditional application infrastructure. Now, the new generation application workloads have a complete new way of functioning. CPUs have been replaced by GPUs, flash storage has been replaced by the regular flash, the in-memory systems have come in place of traditional databases, and all sorts of things. So there has been a tremendous jump in the way the things are working and the speed that is needed. Whereas your traditional application workload, traditional infrastructure would not be able to keep into pace with that, right? So what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is to modernize it, to optimize it, to leverage automation wherever it is possible, to use flash, to use cloud. Even if you want to move into private, public, there has to be a smooth transition, or else you can move on. You can use your production as a in-house system, but you can do you can do a transparent cloud tiering into cloud services. So is your storage capable of doing all these things? That is all the need of the hour. And how do we transform that? So all these things are things that we're going to see in the IBM portfolio going forward. So like we discussed, right? So there are different challenges with storage. The first one is data at scale. So what is the capacity? What is your growth percentage? How, at what rate are you growing? So that has increased. And there's a lot of variety. Like I said, there's unstructured data. So earlier, a couple of years back, the regular block size or the throughput size of the file system or of the storage was between 8 KB to 16K or 32K, even 1 MB. However, now it starts from 4 KB because SAP HANA works on 4 KB, and it could go up to unstructured data up to 32 MB. Now, a regular storage would not be able to work with such a diversion, right? So you need specified system to work in that kind of environment. The same is data in motion, the velocity, right? So there is a lot of applications in memory or lot of data analytics applications where you would see that in-memory systems are being run, and they would not need storage on regular basis, but they would like to flush the data into storage for consistency purpose at a very high rate. And for that, we need faster storage. And the last point is data uncertainty. The data structure also changes with time, and you need an infrastructure which can keep up to pace with all these changes, right? So these are the basic problems where which a business leader would face, and this would keep on changing because data uncertainty will also be dependent upon newer application that comes in the newer next generation, like what I mentioned earlier, deep learning and machine learning, right? So what is the actual when it comes to infrastructure, what is the actual gap? So if you see slide number 8, you would agree to this that in the last decade, the CPU performance has gone up 10 times in the last decade, whereas the storage capacity, or the way the storage performance goes or disk performance increases is not even 5%. So there's a big gap between the traditional storage and the way the systems are performing, like Power 8 or Power 9, which is upcoming, or even the Intel systems. The newer Intel systems are much faster or functioning much better than the traditional storage would perform. So to fill these gaps, you need flash storage. So let us see this in the slide number 9 with the help of an example. How would actually it make a big difference? So we have a regular, IOP, what we say, an input-output processing time, right? So we have 200 microseconds, that is the regular time. And then we have the time waiting for the array, because the array would take 5 millisecond response time to, complete one input-output cycle. Whereas IBM flash system would take 200 microseconds. That is the standard time a flash system would take, right? So what is that you're losing out, or what can be achieved in the remaining time that you have? So you see that your CPU efficiency is 4%. A lot of time has been wasted just for waiting for the array. The system is waiting idle. It's waiting for the storage system to give the reply back. So this is what you have, right? What do you do with the extra time? You can push in as many as multiple IOPS in the same time, because now the system doesn't have to wait for the storage system. The server doesn't have to wait for the storage to be slower. So in the same time where you were able to do one IO, now you can do multiple IOPS. I believe this is more clear from the example because it shows clearly the red and the blue. The red shows the storage processing time, and the blue shows the time processed from the data from the server. So there are multiple IOs that you can cover in the same time based to a traditional storage where you could be able to do only one IO, right? Now, what is actually different in IBM, or why is IBM, what is IBM FlashCore to begin with? So in 2013, IBM acquired Texas Memory Systems. That was the fastest, flash-based chip company in the world. And we bought that. And after that, the IBM research scientists have actually enhanced the technology, enhanced the FlashCore chip, and made it more robust and more performance-oriented with the time. And it has, even the cost has come down as we go ahead, and the use of flash has been made available to the market, right? So till 2014 end, most of your storage vendors were selling SSD in the name of flash. They would tell you it's a flash system, but at the end it would be only SSD, because there were only two vendors till 2014 who were able to sell flash. One was IBM, the other was Violin. So, and IBM got the FlashCore technology patented, so nobody can use it. So what does IBM FlashCore actually means, right? So we have an industry standard chip technology, and IBM research scientists have enhanced that Micron technology to increase the performance. And all this is done on the chip itself. It's a hardware modified chip. So if you see the topmost blue layer, you will see it is a hardware accelerated IO. So when we say we give you the flash chip, the flash chip itself is capable of reaching 1 million IOs. You do not need any extra software layer to enhance the performance, because if you use the software layer to enhance the performance, today or tomorrow, as the time goes by and the workload increases, there will be a downshift in the performance. There will be a degrade in the performance. Whereas if you use IBM FlashCore, because the micro latency model is hardware accelerated, you do not need to depend on a software. There is very less coding required. It's all hardware based, and the hardware is capable enough of reaching million IOs at microsecond response time. Now we'll look at the the ways of how IBM prevents it. If you see the diagram or the figure where you see the silver the silver chip and the black LEDs just behind it, the silver chip is the one that is the flash the flash controller, or the flash chip that is actually hardware accelerated for you. And we have a variable stripe rate. Now what does variable stripe rate mean? Let us discuss that with the help of an example. So variable stripe rate means it would reduce, or it would remove the failed chip set after it has been failed. That means if there is any failure in any of the chipsets, the variable stripe would reduce from 7+1 to 6+1, so that there is no performance degrade while there is a replacement happening. So in a regular traditional flash storage, there will be a hot failover happening, and after that there is a lot of time taken for rebuild. Until that time, there's a performance degrade. But that does not happen in IBM Flash, because it would remove that from the calculation part and it would keep on striping without any delay. So that's the first benefit. The second benefit is the 2-day rate system, 2D rate system. So one is the variable stripe rate, the other one is 2D. So in this, if you see, the rate protection happens across the flash cards and along as well. So on both the sides, you get 2 levels of rate protections. That means the chances of double disk failures are very, very less, and the life of flash system is much better than a regular, regular traditional drive. So your data is saved in, in a IBM Flash Core technology because of the 2D RAID. Now, moving to the all flash portfolio. Before we move there, we'd like to just give you, things why we wanted to create a category, or we want to get a complete suite. Because, Flash is going to be fast, but each offering or each application, like we discussed earlier, would have different uses. There would be, some people would like to go with only pure performance. Some would like to go with, only IOPS. Some would like to go with only throughput. Some would like to go with, features. They would give free features more preference than performance. So for each class, we have different, different offerings, and we'd like to discuss that. Now, if you see the IBM Flash System portfolio, you would see there are different offerings, right? Spectrum Virtualize, Spectrum Accelerate, Spectrum Scale, and then the standard enterprise class DS8000. Now, if you see in the gray color, you will see the Flash System 900. That is the, what we call the booster of Flash System. That's the basic offering. It is extreme performance, but without any features. You would not get any compression, any data features. But there are cases where customer says that they do not want to compromise on performance even a small bit. They need extreme performance, but they do not need any extra features. So for that, we recommend them Flash System 900, right? For Spectrum Virtualize, or the people who need to go for hybrid infrastructures, or those who want high availability or disaster recovery, or even they want to start from mid-range and want to go to the higher range, we recommend them Spectrum Virtualize. It's simplified management, it's more flexible, more virtualized, it is enterprise class, and you can use the same Flash System 900 with SVC. That would form your Flash System V9000. The smaller ranges, those are V5030F, that is Flash V5000, and V7000F. Now, moving to the Flash System or the Spectrum Accelerate. So this is the system that was launched around a year and a half back. This is based on the XIV model. It's more scalable. It can go up to petabytes of flash the storage in one rack, and it is grid-based flash model, and it can go up to 2.5 million IOPS in a single box. It is basically meant for large deployment, and it is all cloud ready. You can do transparent cloud tiering, you can move it to S3, move it to Swift. It is compatible with all the APIs, and this is currently the highest selling box in IBM India portfolio. Most of your banks, your telecom leaders are going ahead with Spectrum Virtualize and Spectrum Accelerate both. Then comes the Spectrum Scale. If you remember, I talked about big data, I talked about deep learning, machine learning, all the unstructured versions, right? Where throughput is the key. It's not the IOPS, it is the throughput, because the size itself of the block size itself of the workload would be very huge. It would be in megabytes, and it would be all random. You cannot just play around with the workload. It could be sequential for some time, it could be random for some other time. For those large deployments with heavy duty performance requirement, we go with IBM Elastic Storage. It comes with standard disk as well as it comes with your flash disk. It has both the models available. And at the last, we have the enterprise class for large deployments. That is a DS8800F. That is the flash version. Now, most of the complex environments with petabytes of requirements where stability is the key, and it's going to be very heavy duty writes for a long period of time with 3-side disaster recovery. All those requirements where disaster recovery comes into picture, 3-side disaster recovery comes into the picture, people mostly prefer DS8000. Most of your telecoms are also using DS8000s as a standard version for many years, even decades. Now, would like to stop for a second, just like to make sure that I'm making sense and everybody understands what is going on. In case if you have any questions, you can you can go ahead with the chat, or you can we'll have a question and answer session at the end of this at the end of the PPT, and you can give all your questions and we can discuss that in detail, right? Now, moving to the next slide. So we'll take a look at what each one stands for and what it can do, right? So Spectrum Virtualize. So it starts with a small offering that's economical, that's V5000, and V5030 Flash is the flash version of it. It's for mid-range and small infrastructure. And then comes the V7000. This has been the highest selling box for IBM for almost a decade now. It's the second generation going on. V7000 Gen 2 was introduced in 2013 and 2014 beginning. And since then, it has been a very important box for IBM. It's very highly scalable. You get virtualization, you get compression, you get thin provisioning, you get disaster recovery. All kinds of features are available with the V7000 version. And the V9000, which was introduced in 2015, is basically Flash 900 combined together or sandwiched together with IBM SVC. So SVC is a virtualization engine, and 900 being the flash system is sandwiched together to form an appliance called as Flash System V9000. Now V9000 comes as a standard offering. It can be clustered to form to increase to scalable, goes up to terabytes, and now it also offers compression. So it is more space saving for you. And currently V9000 in cluster mode can go up to millions of IOPS in the microsecond range. So you have more space savings, more power savings, very small capacity of your rack space is actually being used because each V9000 is only 8U, right? And then it starts with 8U and you can go further if you want to increase it, and it gives you terabytes of space and millions of IOPS in the small 8U range. So it is ideal for a small billing application going up to major large applications where you would like to scale it up, because it can go into cluster formations also, right? And moving ahead to hybrid cloud. Now, private cloud, or even the private players in India who are basically what we can say as cloud orchestrators, or who are in-housing data centers in their premises and selling cloud as a service or space as a service, those are also using A9000. So why it is more important, or why this is a really hot box, is because the data services layer is being enhanced in this box. And by data services, I mean that you'll get compression, you get deduplication, you get pattern removal, you get thin provisioning, all by default. That means from day one, it is by default enabled. So you get 1:5 space savings on each box. So if you buy 50 terabyte, you can go ahead and allocate 5 times more than that. So that is the reason that it is the hottest selling box right now, because you get all the features, all the performance of Flash, and you get the data services features of XIV or the hybrid cloud. And it is cloud compatible. You can move to transparent cloud. You can do automation. You can do AI. You can even go ahead and automate all your provisioning with the other softwares, with VMware. Everything is compatible, and you can go ahead and plan it with the A9000 and A9000R. The next slide will show you what is the major difference between both these boxes, which one is smaller, one is the A9000, small box, and the other one is the rack box. R stands for rack. So if you see this, the next slide, you will see the A9000 architectural grid elements, right? So you have InfiniBand. So we have removed the SAS one. There's no more SAS on this. It's been replaced by InfiniBand in redundant switch. That means it's going to be very, very fast. Compared, the backend is going to be extremely fast. Then we have management module. We have controllers. And then we have the minimum. This is the minimum configuration. We have 2 4-grid controllers and 2 flash. So this is the minimum configurations. And then it can go up to, you can expand up to the entire rack. That means it can go up to the entire rack. Now, the minimum configuration of A9000R is 4 controllers and 2 flash with the InfiniBand switches. And so if we start with this, this is the next slide will show you it can go up to 300 TB, it can go up to 600 TB's effective capacity because it's 5:1 like I told you, right? So it can go up to, as you keep on increasing, it can go up to petabytes. So the sixth part has 12 controllers because each model has 2 controllers, so 12 controllers. 900 TB is in effective, and if you buy the 5.7 TB drives, you'll get 1.8 TB. But effectively, it is going to be much more because it's 1:5, and you're going to get 2 million of IOPS. Now, these numbers are definitely going to change and increase in the, in the next couple of months because recently there have been new announcements by IBM. That means the capacity would increase in the coming months. There would be, as in India, there's a BI certificate that we need to get certified before we start offering it to the clients. So it is in the current process of getting it certified, which will take probably a month or 2. And after that, we can, give you the newer estimate numbers. And then, the number would be at least 30 to 40% improved over the numbers that we are showing you today. And so this is the entire portfolio, right? The software-defined solutions. You have control. Spectrum Control is nothing but the monitoring software that can monitor all the servers, switches, storage, everything, and automate it. That's the Spectrum Control for you. The older name was TPC. You have Spectrum Scale, that is the elastic version for unstructured data. You have a Spectrum Accelerate, that is the A9000. You have Spectrum Virtualize, that is the SVC and V7000, the standard mid-range offerings. You have Spectrum Copy Data Management for copy services, for snapshot, for clouds, cloud copy, for backup on-premises copy, for moving transparent tearing to cloud, all those things. Then you also have IBM Cloud Object Storage, that is the CleverSafe and other offerings from cloud. And at last you have the Spectrum Protect. So all these coming together forms an IBM Spectrum Storage Suite. So these are different sections or different categories so that it is easier to remember, and each one has a specific use and specific field where, specific requirement. So if you need performance, if you need virtualization, if you need DR, you can go to Spectrum Virtualize. If you need more of data services and enhanced features, you can go to Spectrum Accelerate. If you want unstructured data, you want bigger throughput, you want to go with scalability, going into petabyte, and even to work as a NAS system or a high-speed backup, you can go with IBM Spectrum Scale. And for monitoring, you can go to Spectrum Control. So all things are available. Now moving to the last part is the DS8000 series. These are enterprise class. You have 8884F, 8886, and 8888. It's basically the same box, but the different number of drives and the way it can be stored up. So 8880F is the biggest box that we have. It is all flash. It will give you high performance, business critical, all enterprise class architecture, and it has been a stable box for almost a decade now. So this is what we have to, this is what we have to go for, right? Like the entire portfolio is there for the win. It's all helping you guys to to make sure, depending upon your requirements, depending upon what you need, depending upon what is the need of the hour, we can help you select what could be the exact IBM storage tool or IBM storage suite to modernize, to transform your current infrastructure with the use of Flash to take it to the next level and make it faster, make it more modernized for you. And IBM has been the leader in software-defined and Flash leadership for past 3 years. Since the Gartner report has been showing the same. So this is all from my side, IBM storage portfolio, and I'm all open for you for all your questions and doubts, and all the things you can put it on chat. But before we go ahead, we'd like to close the session with the next poll question. So I would request the admin to please share the poll question. Thanks a lot.
Certainly, sir. Participants, the poll questions will be open for the next 1 minute. Kindly make sure that you submit your responses. Thank you.
For those of you who have already answered the question, please request if you have any questions, please start typing them on chat and sending them to us now. The time for the poll questions is up now. So could we please see the results?
Certainly, sir. I am furnishing the response now.
Okay, so we have the results in front of us. So as we can see that I think it's a mix of all that has got the highest number of responses, followed by SAS-only drives. So I think, Jasminder, I think you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so this is what we expected actually, because most of the infrastructure are a hybrid. They are basically a mix of SSD, SAS as well as NL SAS. Now, day by day, the Flash, the cost per GB or the cost per IOPS is getting reduced. So definitely this can be exchanged or be replaced by the regular systems, as well as there are certain systems, for example, A9000, which would give you 1:5 space savings. So if you buy 50 terabyte, you can actually go ahead and provision 250 terabyte out of it. So that would fit into your regular category, right? So you can replace all your traditional storage with Flash and get the benefits of Flash storage with microsecond response time, as well as the higher IOPS, which can be increased. It can go up to million IOPS.
Okay. I have a couple of questions which I've received, and I'm going to ask you that. So one, of course, is Jasminder about what are some of the upcoming changes that you are seeing in the near future in this area? You talked about some of the trends, but what are the real upcoming changes you see happening here?
So the biggest changes would be that first thing from the storage side would be that the 2D flash would be replaced by the 3D TLC flash. That would mean that the flash would get more cost effective. It would be even more easily available and even more better promising and better value for money for the newer upgrades. So we see a trend that more than 70% of the infrastructure would be running flash in the near future, and eventually the entire infrastructures would be going towards flash, because even though not all infrastructure would be very high IOPS required, but the response time is what the key is. Like, even though your system would be only 50,000 IOPS requirement, but if it takes 6 hours or 8 hours for the job to get done, right? And if you move it to flash, just because of the response time, dip, because there is such a huge difference in the response time on flash, the same job which gets done in 8 hours would get done in 2.5 hours or probably 2 hours, right? And if there is not much difference in the cost, everybody would like to go ahead with that difference and make the benefit of moving to a faster and a better storage. So we see that kind of movement happening very, very soon, probably next couple of months, with the new IBM flash coming in.
Okay. So somebody, Sumit Bhagwat, has raised a question that what is the new RAID? Can you provide some more information on the new RAID setups?
Yeah, so the new RAID that is coming is the 3D TLC RAID. So basically the number of drives and the capacity of drives on flash storage will go up. So if you remember back in the day in 2012, 2013, when the flash was announced, the biggest flash card that we had was only 2 terabyte, then 2.8 terabyte, then 4 terabyte, and now we have 5.7 terabyte card. So each flash card comes with 5.7 terabytes. With 3D TLC coming in, it's been announced already, would be available in the market in the next couple of months. The capacity would go almost 3 times, if not exactly 3 times, at least 2.5 times of what is today. So today the biggest capacity of flash would be 57 terabyte raw and 1.8 terabyte usable. That would directly jump to something around 180 terabytes in each flash system, each flash 900. That means the A9000R that can give you 2 petabytes would go up to 3.5 petabytes or something.
Okay. So is that one of the announcements, because you mentioned, I mean, IBM apparently had announced about something about flash storage. Some major announcements were done. Is that the major announcement, or was there something else as well?
Yes. So I'll give you a brief of the announcements. So flash system 900 has been upgraded with the 3D TLC. That was the major announcement. The other part is that flash system A9000 will be using the upgraded flash 900 going forward, and it would be coming ahead with new features such as hyperscale mobility for high availability, and for critical systems where you want to have 2 copies of the same data in the same production site, or if you want to have high availability, even if one side goes down, your production should not go down. You have hyperswap. So hyperswap on A9000 will come in. The capacity will definitely go high, but obviously it will go high by a bigger margin, but there will be no major impact on performance. The performance will stay the same. It will not be a degrade in performance.
Okay.
So these are the basic major announcements from IBM.
Okay. And, you mentioned that a large part of in one of your slides, a large part of the data today is unstructured. So are there setups available that can handle unstructured data in storage? Have you done some work around that?
Yeah, so, in the past couple of years, we have been, as part of lab services, we have done a lot of work on unstructured data. like initially we used to work on smaller sections of analytics or SAP HANA or Informatica, because IBM also is a vendor. They also sell software, analytical software, right? So we are also in the same market, in the competitive market. So, but now very recently we have also, the size of the unstructured data or analytics have actually been gone very high, right? Last year we did SAP HANA for 40 nodes, for 80 nodes in India, and it's working fine on IBM storage. It is all on flash. It's working very much prominently, much smoothly than a regular traditional storage. And you don't need to create islands of SAP HANA, because each storage is now capable of creating a single cluster, like huge clusters, right? So you don't need to create small separate cluster and then have a nightmare handling them. One storage itself is capable of creating bigger clusters. With respect to we did a recent work with respect to high-speed backup. We used the IBM Elastic Storage Server with third-party software, because the customer wanted to use a third-party software, and we went ahead with third-party software for backup, and we created a backup solution using Flash, and that is currently the fastest backup solution in India. It would give you somewhere between 18 to 22 gigabytes per second.
Okay.
So, and we are doing a lot of work for universities as well, where you need single file system or single file space with with probably petabytes of capacity and hundreds and 200 GBs of throughput per second. So we have systems in India as well where 200 GB per second throughput is possible, and people are using it, and it's all based on spectrum scale.
Okay, thanks. Sagar, can you check if there's any questions coming in from the audio bridge? Maybe we can take one now.
Certainly, sir. So ladies and gentlemen, at this time, should you wish to ask any questions over the audio, you may please press 0 and then 1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. We give you a moment.
And in the meantime, if there are any questions that you'd like to ask on chat, please send them to us now.
Once again, participants, to ask any questions over the audio, you may please press 0 and 1. Also, to ask any questions over the web, you may use the chat facility. Yeah, so we have a question here from Mr. Rajesh Javeri. The line is unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Rajesh from Bureau Veritas. I just wanted to understand the cost of this flash drive with respect to the traditional, terabit thing. How much difference will be there? Because when we need to propose to our management, that is also one of the things we always find a difficulty. So, can you have some those ideas with respect to the benefit what we get? Of course, technologically we get many benefits, but in terms of cost, when we able to get recover of when we have this type of investment actually.
So the exact price I would not be able to.
No, when I say price, means I'm saying rough, like how we're able to get within a.
I'll probably provide you the idea. So I would not be able to give you the exact price difference, but let's say if there is if there is a 20 or 30% additional price that you're paying for flash, all that price would be brought to par with the help of the features. For example, if you go with A9000 or if you go with SVC or V9000, so compression is a feature that we sell by default, right? In A9000, compression and deduplication is something that we create is by default enabled. So yes, anything that you create on the storage, any volume, be it 100 GB, be it 1 terabyte, whatever it is, you will be able to provision 5 times the capacity that you buy. So if you buy 50 TB, you will be able to provide 250 terabyte to your servers from the same storage, because every data that is stored on the storage will be compressed, deduplicated, and then stored to the disk.
Okay. Okay.
It is inline compression, inline deduplication. So let's say if you have 10 servers as of today, and if you have 200 TB of traditional storage, if you buy flash, you will have to buy only 1/5 of that, because in 1/5 you'll be able to put the entire servers and run the setup. You don't need to buy the entire capacity. So even though it is a little bit more expensive, you don't need to buy the entire capacity. You will only buy 1/5 of it, right? So it is, in that way, it is more value for money.
Okay, so you mean to say in the modular wise, we can just edit as and when, and then, depending upon the, the number of servers and the application, we can always, reconfigure the entire things with respect
you
to
don't you don't need to reconfigure anything. So let's say for example, if you go ahead with A9000, like many of our customers, the banking customers are going ahead with that, right? So all they need to do is they need to buy the box, and then they need to select a method for migration, be it host-based migration or be it storage-based migration. Once the data is migrated from the old storage to the new storage, as soon as you put the data into the storage, it gets compressed and deduplicated by itself, because the features are enabled from day one.
Okay.
So even if you put 100 TB, you're only going to use 20 TB on the storage. So you don't need to buy 100 TB. You can only put an order of 20 or 30 TB.
Okay.
So you don't need to buy the entire capacity. You only need to buy 30 TB. You will pay the price for 30 TB, but you can use 100 TB.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, please check if there are any other questions on the audio bridge.
Yes, sir. We have a few more indications. The next is from Mr. Jaydeep. The line is unmuted.
Hi, my name is Jaydeep. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes,
you're audible.
right.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. First of all, thank you so much for such an informative webinar. I wanted to ask, suppose I'm using containerization product like DX Enterprise, kind of. So how does it help in addition to that?
Could you please elaborate on your question, like what kind of storage are you using in your containers?
No, right now, so it is a normal storage, but
Okay.
I'm using, we are planning to procure DX Enterprise, a dx2i.com product from US.
Okay.
So that helps in containerization, like it helps in cutting cost in licensing, storage.
But that is containerization is from the server side, right?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So nothing would change. So all your benefits that you get from the server side would remain the same, and all your benefits from the storage would be enhanced, because you will, if you select IBM storage, all your benefits or your savings from the storage will be increased. It has nothing to do with the server savings. Your server savings would be enhanced. There is no there is no impact on those savings. Whatever is compatible on your traditional storage will be compatible with IBM storage as well.
All right. And there is no conflict between the two? No,
there is no conflict. So whenever IBM introduces a flash storage or any other storage for that matter, there's a big, very huge compatibility and interoperability matrix that has been introduced in the market, right? Because most of our customers will be going through containers, through open APIs, through Hadoop and many other clusters, right? So we have to make sure that the product is compatible with all these offerings.
Right.
So it is compatible with most of the offerings, and now especially for A9000, it has been almost 2 years that the product is in market, and most of so I'll just give you a brief amount, right? Top 20 banks in India, 15 banks are using IBM flash storage, more than 15 banks.
All right.
So, and out of the 4 telecom players, top 3 are using IBM flash. So if you look at that variety, we are already the business leaders in the market. And
media,
I myself has configured most of them. So there should not be any problem with that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, I believe there was some other question as well on the audio bridge. Can you please check?
Yes, sir. We have one more indication. It's from Mr. VP Mahindru. I'm unmuting the line, sir.
Okay,
please proceed.
Thanks.
Can you send us this, we have just started very late, so just a request, can you send us the copy of this presentation again?
Yes, we shall be doing that. I think that announcement was already made by the admin that we will be sharing the presentation with you after this is over.
Okay, and after going through the presentation, then we can, I think we can give you our questions.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Sagar, are there any other questions coming on the audio bridge?
No, sir. No indications over the audio.
Okay. So, I guess we will conclude now because it's already 4 o'clock, past 4 o'clock. Thank you, Jasminder. Thank you for answering those questions and for, that in-depth session on storage and IBM's portfolio. To the audience, thank you very much for sparing time to join us on this call. If you do have any questions later, please do write back to us. We will try to get them answered. And I think a recording of this webinar will also be available later, which you can actually check out when you need to. We'll be sending that across to you as well. So with that, thank you, and I hand it over to Sagar.
Thank you, sir. I thank both the speakers for addressing the session today. On behalf of IBM and CMR, I would like to thank all the participants for joining this webinar. You will receive a short pop-up window on your screens right after this session. Please make sure that you submit the feedback form. We hope you have spent useful time with us. Thank you, and you may all disconnect now.